Welcome everybody to the newest rendition of No Hedge Bets. If you're one of the couple hundred subscribers that we got on this channel, if you've seen some of our past content, you might recognize this is a completely new setup. I'm also missing my co-host Bog, and essentially, to make a long story short, what we decided going forward for our channel is instead of hitting such a small niche like the NFL and sports betting, we wanted to try and reach a much more mass audience. We wanted to do stuff that is a little bit more broad to try and drive a little bit better growth for the channel. So going forward, I'm going to be commandeering the No Hedge Bets show by myself, doing it solo. Boggs, really, his drive and push is for the entertainment-based short-form content. One thing that I still wanted to hold on to, despite the fact that I'll be doing that with him going forward, is keeping this No Hedge Bets show alive. So I'm going to be doing this solo going forward, so hope you don't mind the new setup, and hope you like the fact that it's just me rambling to you. Hopefully my analysis is going to help you win money going forward. And one of the things that I want to do now that we're doing this show completely different, now that I'm hosting it by myself. In the past, I'd only been giving you guys a recap and rundown of the picks that we were giving out on this show specifically. So my betting record was drastically different from where I'm actually at on the season as a whole, because come Saturday, come Sunday, throughout the week, once you get a little bit more information on some of these games and you've had a little bit more time to think about it, that's when you're going to have a little bit more confidence pulling the trigger on some other bets that you might not have been too confident on earlier in the week. And obviously, since we record these episodes early in the week to get it out midweek so you guys have some time to find the video and get your bets placed, there's obviously some bets that are going to be missed. So without further ado, I want to finally introduce you guys to my free bet tracking app that I've been using for the entirety of the NFL 2023 season so far. If you go download this app, it's free. It's amazing. It's called Pick It. I'm going to put it up on the screen right now with my profile. This has been my bet tracking app that I've been using all season long. It's been great so far. As you can see, I'm currently a top 10% better on the app, which feels pretty damn good.
You have a massive erection.
Really? Yes, I do. I'm sorry, it's the pleats.
So obviously the momentum for this season, despite it not being as proficient and as I haven't been winning as much money as I had made in the past couple seasons betting the NFL, but nonetheless, we're still having a good year here. And since this is the first time I'm doing this show by myself and I'm introducing you guys to my bet tracking app, instead of giving you a recap of just my picks that I gave out on Bog and I Short from last week, I want to give you a rundown on how I've done this entire season now that I could actually show you the statistics on my Pick It app. So without further ado, let's get into that. Jumping into September, if we're looking at just my NFL bets, I've done pretty solid pretty much every year coming around September. It's the beginning of the season. I'm a little bit more conservative with my bets, and that usually ends up working out in my favor. So as you can see, September was pretty solid. Came in with a profit of about $340, and my record on the month was 27, 29, and 3. So even though just a sub 500 record, obviously that unit fluctuation can help you out big, because obviously, as you see, my profit is pretty solid despite the fact that I was below 500 on the month. But if you look at my just overall betting across the month of September, much better. College football, I was hitting some really nice bets early on in those first couple weeks of college, coming in with a profit of $769 and a record of 44, 39, and 5. So like I said, obviously had a great September month. And unfortunately, what I've noticed year after year betting football is that for some reason, the month of October slaughters me. Might as well call it Red October, because I am bleeding every time we get into the second month of football. If we look at my NFL bets for the month of October, horrible. Coming in losing $712 just on the NFL with a record of 15-29. Unit fluctuation was not saving my record this time around. And then if you look at the overall record for the month of October, that wasn't any better, even losing some college bets and some Premier League bets on the side in this month as well. As you can see, my profit was down $919. So I lost everything that I had gained in the month of September. That obviously sucked. And the record wasn't too much different from just the NFL with a 22-46 record there. Now, If you were listening to some of our past No Hedge Bets long form content, you'll know one of my biggest betting principles is that if you're only picking, minus 110 bets, just looking at spreads, just looking at totals, if you've got a system, you trust your gut, you think you got to read on the NFL, you got to read on specific teams. Sometimes you got to ride the highs and lows and just stick it out and you'll get back to your winning ways. And that's exactly what happened in the month of November, getting back to a $460 profit on the month with a 27-16-2 record. So didn't even need the unit fluctuation too much in that month. I was just winning all my bets. So that felt pretty good. And then obviously, again, November was another month where outside of the NFL, I was still killing it with my bets, coming in with a profit of $690 with a record of 38-21-2. So that was a great bounce back month, got me into the green overall on the year. And we've kept that momentum rolling into December here, coming in with a profit of $173 on the NFL, 17-19-6. So again, unit fluctuation is huge. You got to place those bets on your confidence picks. It can really save you, especially when it comes down to your betting record. And if you look at my overall month of December, I have had some a little bit disappointing outcomes on some other bets outside of the NFL. So my profit overall is actually a little down from where it's at on just the NFL with $111 and an overall record of 18-25-6. I'm sure a couple of those pushes definitely cost me on that profit there. So that obviously sucks. But now that I've finally given you guys my Pickett betting app and you can finally track me and know exactly where my head's at on my betting record week in and week out, you're not just going to be locked up to the sole picks that you're getting from this show. I feel so much more better about that. Obviously, my partner Bog in the past hadn't been using the app, so I wanted to just keep the record on a week-to-week basis based off of just the picks you were getting on the show. But now, if you follow me on that app, you're not only going to see that I'm putting my money where my mouth is on the picks I'm giving you on this show, but also you're going to see a couple other plays that maybe I've got a little bit more information, I'm a little more confident in it, or maybe it's just, had a couple many beers and all of a sudden I feel like being a little bit more of a degenerate and getting my money on a couple more spreads for that week. So obviously, that's going to be nice for whatever viewers we're going to get for the remainder of the NFL season on this channel. But without further ado, we got week 16 of the NFL coming up. This is the best time of year. You're telling me not only do I get to get plastered hanging with my family, but I also get to do it while sitting on the couch watching NFL all day. You can't beat it. The holiday season is the best, not only just as this time of year is so fun, but for the NFL, you obviously can't beat it. And jumping into my first pick of the week, this is my biggest confidence play going on the Thursday night game. So by the time this is uploaded, hopefully the few people that have seen this video have had that time to get this pick in, because I am feeling really confident about this one. We've got the New Orleans Saints going on the road into Los Angeles to play the Rams. This game opened up at a plus or a -1 spread for the Saints. So a little bit interesting there because we saw a sharp swing past 0. The Saints are now getting 4 points. The Rams are laying those 4. And if you look at the money breakdowns, the Rams are getting 90% of the bets and 81% of the money. So a slight sharp pull to the Saints. A lot of public bettors are on the Rams in this spot, but I'm one of those public bettors in this instance. If you look at the Rams offense over the past 4 or 5 weeks, they are one of the top 5 offenses in the NFL right now. They are absolutely red hot. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they got Kyren Williams going in that backfield. So now Matt Stafford finally has a little bit of break, a little bit of relief when he has to sit back and throw in the pocket, because now they have a run game to lean on. Now it's not only Matt Stafford and Puka Nacua doing all the work. Obviously, with Cooper Kupp being back in that offense on top of Kyren Williams developing into their stud back, this offense is just clicking and they are driving on all cylinders right now. Their defense, while that is obviously the weaker of the 2 units on this Rams team, I do think that they're a little bit underrated. Yeah, they're a middle of the pack defense, nothing to write home about, but I still think with a middle of the pack defense, if you have a prolific offense, you can make waves in this league. So I'm really not all too worried about the Rams defense in this spot, especially since they're going up against a Saints team that on paper seems to have a pretty good offense, but anybody that's watched the Saints this year knows they are a very fraudulent team. I don't know what it is. Derek Carr is just not playing well this year. Maybe the guy just sucks, and his, couple big time throws to, especially when he was on the Raiders, to Devontae Adams was able to save his reputation, because this year he has not played well at all. They are a really inefficient team in the red zone. I think that's really going to cost them in this spot against the Rams. And now the Saints defense has been trending up as of late, but keep in mind the Saints team is coming off two fluffer wins against the Giants and the Panthers. So these blowout wins against two of the worst teams, or not even just teams, but especially offenses, Bryce Young and now Tommy DeVito, aren't really going to get too much going on any competent defense in this league. So those games, I like to look at them. They're a little bit more of a fluff result for the Saints. So despite what it might say on paper, the Saints are a fraudulent team. Back the Rams at -4 or better in this spot. I think that they should win this game by even at least 2 scores. So this is my 3-unit play of the week. This is my biggest confidence pick. I've got $150 riding on the Rams tonight. And if this one doesn't fall my way and the Rams don't cover, whatever. This is just this is part of the NFL betting process. I love this game. I love the pick. I love the analysis behind it. So I'm gonna ride it and not get too worried if it doesn't pan out for me, because obviously, like we've seen on the season, I'm doing pretty well anyway. So we got a little bit of wiggle room to play with. Now, we're going to skip right over the Saturday games. I don't see any value in these couple games that we got slated for Saturday. So I'm jumping right past Saturday. We're going to go right into the Sunday slate to the 1 o'clocks here. My first game that I've got is the Indianapolis Colts going on the road into Atlanta to play the Falcons. This game opened up at +3 in the Colts' favor, has since come down to 1, so there's a little bit of line movement going the Colts' way. But despite this line movement, we are seeing a little bit of a big bet and sharp pull going the Falcons' direction here. They are getting 68% of the bets and 82% of the money. And despite all of that pull, I think the Sharps are overthinking this one a little bit. I think the Colts are the much better team compared to the Falcons. I don't know how Arthur Smith hasn't been fired yet. Given the weapons that he's got to work with on this offense, he still just seems to make horrible in-game decisions, and not even just in-game, but I also think he's mismanaged this quarterback situation. Ridiculous what he's done there. He keeps starting Ritter when I think that Heineke is the much better quarterback. Now, he is going to get Heineke in the backfield this week to play the Colts, but when we're talking about this Colts team, this might be one of the most underrated teams in the league right now. They've got that wild card spot locked up as of now, and I think that their head coach Steichen has been killing it this year. They are one of the most underrated teams, a top 10 offense, believe it or not, and not only yards produced per game, but also points per game. This Colts offense with Gardner Minshew has been flying under the radar because, again, this is how the social media and the NFL narratives work. Anthony Richardson got injured. All of a sudden, after the first couple weeks with Gardner Minshew starting, nobody wants to talk about that anymore. I think that the Colts this is just a don't overthink it type game. The Falcons have absolutely stunk it up the past couple weeks. And yeah, obviously the NFL Sharps are banking on them to get it right this week and correct themselves. At this point, I'm really not all too worried about it. I'm going to back the Colts. I think that they are the much better team in this spot. Back them at the money line here. I mean, if you want to take the +1, sure, I get why you're doing that, but anything under +2, I really don't see the need. If it's a big division game, I'll take the +2 or maybe even the +1, +1.5, but in this spot, I don't see it. I'm going to take the Colts money line on the road against the Falcons here. Now, this is a 1-unit play, nothing too crazy, but I definitely think that's a safe 1-unit play, so like I said, I'm backing them in that spot. And moving on to another one of our Sunday 1 o'clock games, we've got the Cleveland Browns going on the road into Houston to play the Texans without CJ Stroud. And despite the fact that it looks like Stroud isn't playing, for some reason, there really is a little bit of a line pull going towards the Texans here. The Browns opened up as -4 favorites. They are since come down to -2.5. But if you look at the money metrics, I guess this kind of explains why the Texans are getting 78% of the bets and 75% of the money. So a lot of the big bettors are on the Texans in this spot. A lot of the public money is sitting there. But as you can see, a little bit of a sharp pull to the Browns, and I am one of those people coming in on the Browns in this spot below a field goal. Look, the Browns are just the far better team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Myles Garrett should be the defensive player of the year. He's been absolutely dominant this season, and especially with the emergence of Joe Flacco in this offense, and Jerome Ford still being a very serviceable running back ever since Nick Chubb went down. I just think that, especially with the Texans not having CJ Stroud, this Browns team could run away with this one in this spot, even though they're going on the road. Like, look, I mean, I get it. Case Keenum for the Texans getting that big win on the road against the Titans. I'm really not all that impressed in that. I don't think Will Levis is anything special. The Titans were just coming off a crazy upset win against the Dolphins. This was a perfect letdown spot for him, and that's exactly what happened. I believe they had a double-digit lead over the Texans last week, and Case Keenum was able to fire this team back up and get them to the comeback win. And I think that was pretty fluky. The Titans defense is nowhere close to the caliber of the Browns defense. So I am going to be back in the Browns -2.5 in this spot. And again, this is just another 1-unit play. Nothing too crazy here. But moving on to the 4 o'clock slate here, this is going to be a 2-unit play for me. So getting back to those confidence picks, we've got the Dallas Cowboys going on the road into Miami to play the Dolphins. This game opened up at +1.5 in the Cowboys' favor. It's still sitting at that figure, so not too much line movement. But despite the lack of line movement, there is a little discrepancy in the sharp money here on the money metrics. Cowboys are getting 49% of the bets and 74% of the money. So a little sharp pull there. And I am one of those people pulling that sharp line movement because I love the Cowboys in this spot. Everybody all of a sudden, after the Cowboys were put in a tough spot to go on the road into cold Buffalo against a Buffalo team that was desperate for a win to stay in the playoff race, that was a bad spot for the Cowboys. Also, the fact that McDermott clearly had a great game plan and a great scheme against the Cowboys last week. A lot of us bettors have known all year that the Cowboys have a very suspect run defense despite that dominant pass rush. So the Bills really exploited that last week, got the ground game going, and they just controlled clock and controlled the Cowboys all game long. Now the Cowboys are going to be going on the road after their division opponent and division rival, the Eagles, lost in Seattle. This means the Cowboys have the sole ownership of the NFC East division, and I don't think they're going to want to squander this spot, given the Eagles' losing streak this past December. I think they're going to go into Miami. I think that they have the better roster, the better team. I think that they're going to get it right this week in a much more warm environment, which is similar to where they're playing in Jerry World at AT&T. So I'm back in the Cowboys at the money line in this spot. I think if that Cowboys pass rush can get to Tua, that's going to cause a lot of concern, and hopefully they're able to contain Tyreek Hill. And once that happens, this Dolphins offense really isn't as dynamic as it can be. So I think that with the just the overall roster differences between the Cowboys and the Dolphins, I really like the Cowboys at the money line in this spot. So again, that's a 2-unit play, backing them there on the road, and I'm feeling pretty confident about that. And now going into the only Christmas game that I'm confident in, at least early in the week here, we're going to the 8 o'clock game. We got the Baltimore Ravens going on the road into San Fran to play the Niners. This game opened up at +3 in the Ravens' favor. It has since come up to +5. I don't think that really surprises anybody. The Niners are getting a lot of public hype. And if you look at the breakdown, though, while the Niners are getting 56% of the bets, they're only getting 43% of the money. So there's a little bit of a sharp pull to the Ravens in this spot. But I am not one of those guys buying into the Ravens. I think that the Ravens, if I had to give my power rankings, they're definitely in the top 3. I do think they're a little bit suspect, though. If you look at their game last week against the Jaguars, the Jags had 2 missed field goals. They had a ridiculous mismanaged clock scenario before the half in the red zone when they were inside the 10-yard line. If they had just spiked the ball, they would have gotten 2 shots at the red zone. Instead, Trevor Lawrence just completely had a mental lapse of judgment there. They end up checking it down below the end zone with no timeouts. So they missed an opportunity there. And then Trevor Lawrence also fumbled with a no contact play later in the, I believe it was the third or the beginning of the fourth quarter. There were so many opportunities that the Jags had to get in the red zone and get points on the board against the Ravens, and they shot themselves in the foot every single time. Meanwhile, you look at this Niners team that also had to play in Jacksonville, and they just completely dominated them. And obviously with what we've seen over the last 3-4 weeks, the Niners have just been absolutely dominant. This is my Super Bowl favorite. I cashed out my Chiefs bet that I was using for free FanDuel bonus bets. I cashed that out with all my money back and put it all on the Niners. I got them at like +360. I think the Niners are floating close to +200 on the Super Bowl now. I love this Niners team. I love Brock Purdy. I love CMC, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle. I think they are dominant, and I haven't even mentioned that defensive side of the football. I think this is the best unit in the NFL. I think that they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. And I think this is a great spot for them to expose a little bit of a fraudulent Ravens team that really needs to be tested against a team that isn't going to make a plethora of mistakes that keep them in the game. You also even think back to the Ravens game against the Chargers, and look what's happened to the Chargers as of late. Now, yeah, I get it. Herbert's been out, but still, I just think that the Ravens are a little bit suspect given their track record. Yes, they've had some really dominant wins this season, but a lot of those have came earlier in the year. So I'm going to be back in the 49ers at -5.5 in this spot. This was an early bet that I made on Monday. Obviously, the lines moved a little bit. They're only at -5 now, so that kind of sucks, but I don't really mind it in this spot. I think the Niners are going to win by 7 or more, so I'm not all that stressed about that line movement. But that's going to conclude it for my picks for this week. Guys, obviously trying this out new. I'm keeping faith in the no hedge bets because I'm having such a strong year. I don't want to give this segment and this show up. So despite the channel going in another direction for the future, I still wanted to keep this alive. So if you enjoy this, if you like my breakdowns, if you like the analysis, please give this video a like, give me a comment, tell me what you think, tell me if you've been riding with me this year, tell me if you faded me this year, because I know I've had some bad weeks, especially the month of October, and especially throw us a subscribe to the channel. It would really help us out and show me that this long form content does have a chance going for it in the future. So thank you for tuning in for the week 16 no hedge best bets. And I hopefully will see you guys next week for week 17 after a good chunk of winners for the Christmas weekend of football. So I'll see you guys next week and peace out.